Boss fights tend to be the highlight of many games, serving as challenging bookends to a level or narrative arc and giving players a sense of closure. Sometimes boss battles are epic, incredibly difficult affairs, and sometimes they're disappointingly easy. Regardless of their difficulties, some bosses meet humiliating ends. Today, we're taking a look at 15 video game bosses that got utterly decimated. But be warned, spoilers are ahead. Professor Nakayama, Borderlands 2. The Borderlands series is known for having challenging encounters that lead to rewarding loot drops. But if you've played Borderlands 2 and come across Professor Nakayama, you probably remember the opposite situation. After coming across this incompetent professor during Sir Hammerlock's Big Game Hunt DLC, he begins a quick speech about how he feels confident in his ability to best you in battle. Within a few moments, however, he trips down a flight of stairs to a hilarious death. Maybe try the elevator next time. Pinwheel, Dark Souls. Dark Souls is known for being one of the most difficult modern games, but one boss in the original game is laughable at best. We all may remember dropping into Pinwheel's room, but most of us barely remember much about the fight due to the fact that he died in a few hits from any decently upgraded weapon. He can clone himself and fire off a few fireballs, yet all but the most defensive players will slay him fast enough that none of this poses any threat. Thanks for the free souls, Pinwheel. Micah, Red Dead Redemption 2. Micah isn't exactly a nice guy in Red Dead Redemption 2. Depending on some in-game choices, he either leaves the main character Arthur for dead or shoots him in the forehead. By the end of the game, we're treated to a standoff between John, Micah, and Dutch. Once Dutch fires a shot on Micah, we're given the opportunity to finish off Micah ourselves with some well-placed shots. Good riddance. Shadow Kamoshida, Persona 5. At the end of the first palace in Persona 5, you also get your first major boss encounter. However, with a little preparation, Shadow Kamoshida is one easy opponent. He might have a lot of abilities, but he's also exceptionally predictable. With a little bit of strategic healing and relentless attacking, this attempt at holding you up ends as pathetically as it starts. What a chump. Dr. Neo Cortex, Crash Twinsanity. Crash Twinsanity's first boss pits Crash against the franchise's most notable villain, Dr. Neo Cortex. You can essentially just stand still as he flies around a small circular pit, throwing bombs everywhere except at you. He charges up and fires an extremely slow plasma blast that you can reflect back without much effort until he eventually spawns a mech. Running around the outside of the pit, avoiding more lackadaisical attacks and reflecting plasma blast is tediously simple, and in no time at all, you send Cortex packing like the pushover he is. The Electrocutioner, Batman Arkham Origins. By his threats and angry demeanor, you'd think facing off against the Electrocutioner in Arkham Origins might be tough. He certainly looks menacing as you stand in a pit surrounded by goons and watch him walk down the steps, warning you of the beating you're about to take. As the fight starts, however, you're quickly treated to a hilarious, slow-motion cutscene of Batman kicking him directly in his big, ugly jaw for an immediate knockout. Nice speech, Sparky. Skullface, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Less of a boss fight and more of a fitting finale to Skullface's story, Snake approaches the dying, bloody maniac as he helplessly reaches for a shotgun while stuck under a huge steel beam. Unfortunately for him, Snake uses the shotgun to subsequently blow his various limbs off in a gruesome and satisfying scene of brutality. As he begs for death, Snake walks away having used every bullet in the shotgun to dismember his body, the ultimate insult to injury. Hermes, God of War 3. If you've ever played God of War 3, you'll remember listening to the ever so pretentious Hermes taunt you as he speeds around a small arena trying to avoid your attacks. Once you've pummeled the wimp enough, he eventually tires out and tries to reason with Kratos. But all Kratos wants is those fast shoes, so in typical God of War fashion, he brutally chops off one of Hermes' legs. As Hermes pulls himself along the ground, gushing blood, Kratos slowly and fearlessly walks towards him. The final QTE allows Kratos to hold him up by his remaining leg and slice it off, leaving Hermes dead with 2 bloody stumps. You're not walking away from this one. Mysterio, Spider-Man 2. Mysterio is known for being a fairly funny villain in the Marvel Universe, but perhaps one of his funniest moments comes in the Spider-Man 2 game. As he stands in the middle of a mini-mart threatening you with his infinite might, a collection of health bars fills up to create the illusion of a long, challenging battle. What follows, however, is a single-hit defeat that sends him crawling against a wall, begging for mercy, as a store employee exclaims, "You rock so hard, Spidey." Well, there's no arguing that point. Yhorm the Giant, Dark Souls 3. Dark Souls games have been known to toss in a few gimmicky boss encounters over the years, but one of its best is Dark Souls 3's Yhorm the Giant. Walking into the boss room for the first time elicits fear and dread as Yhorm towers over you menacingly. Your weapon attacks do virtually no damage. Panic sets in, but then you see a glimmer in the distance. Alas, when you run over and pick it up, you discover it's a sword. Equipping it allows you to charge an extremely powerful attack that utterly decimates Yhorm's health bar and fells the giant in a handful of hits. Easy mode activated. Quan Chi, Mortal Kombat 10. The final fight against Quan Chi in Mortal Kombat 10 is a relatively simple one for any Mortal Kombat player, but the real humiliation comes as the battle wraps up. The villain sits up from his defeated position and begins to speak, but as the word amulet leaves his mouth, Scorpion's kunai spear bursts through his chest and we hear the iconic character yell, "Get over here!" He lifts Quan Chi up with the chain and removes his entire head with a quick strike, leaving it rolling lifelessly on the ground below as he mutters, "Your debt is paid." Well, yeah, it sure looks that way. Lucien Fairfax, Fable 2. After waiting for the entirety of Fable 2 to get revenge on Lucien Fairfax, you finally reach his lair and prepare for the final showdown. As he begins his speech in front of you, you gain control of your character and note that you can just kill him while he speaks. With a single shot, Lucien falls to his death and the game's finale is upon you. Hell, even if you don't shoot him, someone else will, so the poor sap never stands a chance. Well, that's that. Skizzo, Days Gone. As you control Days Gone protagonist Deacon through a dank tunnel, you encounter a booby trap that sends you flailing across the cave. And who is there to try to kill you? Well, none other than the traitorous Skizzo taking shots at you with a pistol at the other end of the tunnel. Lucky for you, there's plenty of cover, and after a few easy-to-time dodges, Deacon leaps at Skizzo. A knife fight ensues, followed by a short and easy QTE that results in Deacon getting off a solid gut stab on Skizzo. The wound leaves him writhing in pain on the floor as Deacon explains how he's going to enjoy finishing this job and promptly slits his throat. Revenge is sweet. Papu Papu, Crash Bandicoot. As the first boss of the entire Crash Bandicoot series, you go into the Papu Papu fight knowing it probably isn't going to be very difficult. But Papu Papu isn't just easy, he's pathetic. As he sits in the middle of his hut swinging his staff around in circles, you can just jump on his head without much trouble at all, and after doing so a handful of times, the big oaf is down and out. Adding insult to injury, Crash uses Papu Papu's tummy to jump through the roof of the hut and escape. Better luck next time, big guy. The Witches of Hemwick, Bloodborne. Souls-like PS4 exclusive Bloodborne is every bit as challenging as Dark Souls before it. But much like that series, it has a few gimmick fights to tackle along the way to its finale. Most notable of these is the battle against the Witches of Hemwick. This fight simply requires you to walk around the room searching for the invisible witches and then pummeling them when you find them. They have attacks that are so slow that you'd have to be standing still to get hit by them, and the adds that spawn throughout the fight are killed with a few solid hits and pose just as little of a threat. Before long, the witches die as embarrassed as they are ugly. And that about does it for this video. If you enjoyed what you watched and want to see more from Gaming Bolt, you can always hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon next to it. That way you will never miss any of our videos.